Hi, I'm Jeff. Welcome to HM Ranch. Now in this segment in the series, Comfortable Off-Grid Living, we're going to discuss our simple solar electric power system. Now our house is wired just like any other house is. The only difference is in your typical house, the main wires go into the power grid. Ours go into our solar power system. So these panels produce 1,000 watts of solar energy. Now, so in our situation, this is enough to where it powers us through the day, and we can, wash clothes, vacuum, whatever we need to do during the day, but it's still enough power to charge the batteries for nighttime use. Now a 1K system or a 1,000 watt system is not very large. But now this works for us because in our house we use propane gas appliances. Set up much like a travel trailer, except we have the regular size appliances. But I mean our water heater, cook stove, refrigerator, freezer, it's all run by propane. But living on a ranch, we can turn a lot of this manure, the animal manure, into biogas, which will just about half our propane bill. So now I don't want to get too far into the biogas because that's in another segment. So we'll stick with the solar system. And what we're going to do here is we're going to start with the solar panels, and I'm going to show you how, by doing all the work ourselves, we built this thing on the cheap. Now on the back of these panels, see, we built all these frames right here, plus the legs. So I'm not going to give you any measurements because it would all depend on what the solar panels, the size of the solar panels are. So, but I'm going to tell you the material. So the angle iron here, this is 2x2 by 1/8 inch angle iron. This has been good and tough. These have suffered through some heavy winds and come out just fine. And you can see how this is set up here. If you can just take the some pictures of it. So now these legs, this is thin walled tubing that I filled with, after they were in and cemented or concreted, I filled them with gravel, and then the very top I put in a concrete cap because otherwise the birds keep trying to nest in there. Now like I was saying, we did this on the cheap. You can see the wiring here is old extension cord pieces. They're, in this case, about 2-foot chunks is what I needed here. And if you take these caps off of any solar panels you got, they have a wiring diagram there. Pretty simple. Now you can see here where we have this hinge. Now I'm going to try to talk over these roosters here. It's almost butchering time. We don't have to put up with that noise much longer. But there's a hinge here, so you can see this is adjustable. And so the adjustments are on here. So we just loosen this up. You take one on each end, Karen and I, because you want to do it up together because you don't want to crack the glass on your solar panel. So we're here, this is February 1st, so we're in the middle of winter here. And so this is the winter setting. So we don't use the ones in between, but so in the summertime we will go to this one here. So it will flatten it out because the sun is up much higher. After the wiring is set up here, now it goes down here. You can see now each one has a switch on it. And the wires go down and they all come together. And then they end up into the root cellar, which is where we keep our electronic equipment. Simple electronic equipment. Very, very cheap. Now you probably noticed on this one there's a plug in here. See, these panels, now, we got these for free from a friend of a friend. Somebody had them up, it was in Reno. And so we went up and we got 100 of them. I think the other guy got 200 of them. So, but the reason they were there is because they were 24 volt, and that's not real standard. But it is for something like this. Why they were still there, I don't know. Sometimes fate just intervenes. So next, we'll follow these wires on into the cellar where we keep our electronic equipment. Now we keep our power equipment down here in the cellar. Now if you live in a flood zone, I wouldn't recommend this. This is the high point of our property, the high point of the valley, and everything goes southwest of here, southeast. So we don't have to worry about flooding here. But again, if you lived in a flood zone, if you ever had a cellar flood, then it's just going to ruin all your equipment. So I wouldn't do that. But in this case, we can. So come on down. pretty much here. Okay. Now, what we have, the setup we have here is about the least that you could have. And I like to keep things simple. That's less things to go wrong. So what happens here is now these wires, I got this pointer here. I don't know what it's from. It looks like a curtain rod or something, but it will take care of the job I need it to. So you can see the wires right here are the ones that come in from the panels. And those are thicker than the ones going out. And the reason is because they're DC wire. So anytime you're working with DC, the wires have to be thicker than when you're working with AC. So, and I'll explain that when we get here. But these are the DC wires coming in from the panel. And immediately they go and they hook to this charge controller. Now you have to have a charge controller. Otherwise it'll charge your batteries too quick. Or they won't charge them enough and it'll just kill the life of your battery. So you have to have this charge controller. And now this little gadget under here, this is called a lightning arrestor. Now, I would definitely hook one of those up if you do have lightning storms. This will save your electronic equipment. It absorbs that extra power. Okay, so it goes, and that all hooks into this, into the charge controller. So from the charge controller, it goes into the batteries. Now you can see here, what we have is just typical deep cycle batteries that we got at Walmart, and we have there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so we have 14 of these batteries. Now the last time that we had batteries here, they lasted for 11 years before we had to replace them with these. Okay, now these batteries, again, are for 24 volts, because you remember when I was talking outside that the panels were 24 volts. So we had to change all our setup here because we had all 12 volt before. So we had to change over to 24 volt, which is no big deal because any of this stuff now is much less expensive than it was before. So what we have is we got here, I'm going to move over to the other side. So we got 2 banks of 12 volt batteries. And so they're wired to make 24 volts. So from the charge controller, again, it goes into the batteries. Now from the batteries, it goes out into here. Now this has got 2 plug-ins. So one plug-in is for this one, and this plug-in is for our backup. Okay, now I would just disregard this because this was from an old 12 volt setup, so don't even worry about that. So the only thing I can say is with the inverter, so what these are is inverters, and that changes that DC voltage into 120 AC voltage or 110 AC voltage, which ends up going into the house. And that's where this plug goes, and it goes on up. You can see where it goes on out and out into the house. And we're going to go out there in just a little bit. But now the only thing I can say about the inverter, this one here is a real power hog. This is one of those that when it's not, and it's on, but it's not actually being drawn from, it idles down. So that's the kind you want to get, because overnight, if it doesn't idle down, this one takes 70 watts just sitting there waiting for something to turn on so it can work. Even though it's on, but it's nothing's drawn from it, it's still taking 70 watts all night long. This one won't do that. So you want to look for an inverter that has that ability. And now, so again, you can see the difference in the wires here. How much thinner the AC wires are than these DC wires. So, and again, we can do that because we don't have the refrigerator, the freezer, and everything kicking on and off with those big loads when they first start. And so this is just perfect for what we're using. So this will go up again into the house, but we got another box we got to look at here. And so we're going to go up there right now. Now, one thing I almost forgot. We already got up out of the cellar before I remembered this, so here we are back in here. Anytime you have your batteries in a closed-in area like this, you need a vent because they will vent explosive gases. So you can see right up here, here's the vent right here. It's right here. And that goes clear up top. And it's got a cap on it so the rain can't get through. But that keeps this place vented, and you never ever smell any of the sulfation from these batteries. That's very important. Now right here, this is where the wires come in and then out of the cellar. Okay, so it comes underground over to our main switch box here. Now here is where, if you were tied to the power lines, it would go underground to the power lines, not to our power center. So, but this is where it all comes together, where it comes from there and then into the house. So one thing you can see, so this is the shutoff. And I got see if you can get in here. So I got this switch right here, and I got it listed for generator and inverter. So right now it's on the inverter. So if I wanted to use, see, that's very important, is a backup generator. Anytime you're working with Mother Nature, she's not always going to perform for you. So you always have to have backups. And I'm going to go and show you the generator here in just a second. So if I want to use the inverter, there's little tabs on here that you can break off to keep one from another. But I never ever keep them plugged in at the same time because I'm afraid I'm going to blow something up. So, but if I'm using the inverter, it's plugged in here. If I'm using the generator, it's plugged in here. Now this is our motor shed right around the corner here. Now it's kind of dark in here. Hopefully we can still get a good picture. But what this is, this was an old surplus military generator that I bought a long time ago for like $150. The engine went bad on it, so I ended up buying another engine, one of these 6.5 horsepower ones from Harbor Freight for $100. It's been a great engine. Now the one thing I wanted to show you about this is on these pulley sizes. Most of the time, you would have a smaller pulley here because when you have electric appliances that are coming off and on all the time, you got that big surge of power and they have to power through this. But like I was saying, all our appliances are propane gas and they don't need, so we don't need that here. So what this is, I've got a lot larger pulley on here. So this basically just runs at a fast idle for us. And so one tank of gas will last about 8 hours because of that. And we, use this occasionally, not a lot, but we do use it occasionally. And again, because Mother Nature doesn't always supply what you need, you have to have a backup like this if you want to remain comfortable. So now again, this power supplies us. Now we have the washing machine here, but obviously that's electric. We don't have a dryer. Here's the freezer, gas powered. Water heater, gas powered. Now this is a refrigerator, gas powered, propane gas powered. Cook stove, gas powered. Like again, that's why we can have a small setup and still remain comfortable. But now this refrigerator is probably I think it's a 1956 Serval. There's still a lot of these in people's sheds that they would just want to get rid of, and they're good to get. We have a couple backups in case something ever happens to this, but I don't expect it to. Now, when we have, electrical appliances like this, can opener doesn't take much, but we do not have a microwave oven. The blow dryer has to be used on low. We don't have a coffee pot, but now that making coffee and using our solar oven, that will be covered in another segment. But right at first, these things were kind of a pain for us, but now it's just second nature. We don't even think about it. Still living very comfortably.
Like everyone, we had the popcorn popper, we had all the electric griddle, we had all the stuff, and we've done without, and we've not missed anything but maybe the microwave.
And you could still use those appliances, but you would have to use them in the middle of the day, and that's where, like when we wash clothes or vacuum, we try to do that in the middle of the day because you don't want to use it at night because then you're just running your batteries down. But in the middle of the day, the solar panels will keep up with your usage. Okay. Wait a second. Okay, that's all right. Just let it go. Okay, now we're going. Now you can see in here, this is our entertainment center basically. We have a fairly good sized TV. We have the satellite receiver, tape player, DVD player, and the CD, radio, and
Record.
Tape and record player here. So we have pretty much everything everybody else has. Like I say, it's just comfortable. Now the one thing that I do want to point out here though, see we even have a Wii, but is our light bulbs. Now these are the kind I like, these LED light bulbs. So in this situation, so this is equal to the old 40-watt light bulbs, and but it only takes 6 watts. And these are just a godsend to us people that are off-grid like this. It definitely saves power in the evenings and saves your batteries. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go out to my shop and I'm going to show you the simple solar setup I got there for power. Now this is the only panel we have for the shop. Now, you know, I've got my trusty pointer here and I like this because it gives me a feeling of authority. And I noticed that the dogs showed me a lot more respect when I got this. But anyway, so this panel is just a 100-watt panel and this is what serves my shop. So what we're going to do, I need you to come to the back side so you can see how I have this set up. Now this was refurbished from an old satellite dish from they used to have a long way back. And as you can see, pointed over that way, and you can see that's the dish. And so I use that for just if I have a calf or goats or something, they got a little bit of shade out there in the pens.
That's it?
So this panel is just a direct connection here to the wires, and you can see the wires go on down underground and they go over here to the shop or barn or whatever. It's just I got a shop in the barn. So we're going to be, when we go inside, we're going to be just on the other side of this wall in this corner here. Now you can see I've got a typical shop, nice and messy, but you know this, the wires that come from the panel, just like at the house, come in, here they are, and they go right up to the charge controller. And again, you have to have a charge controller in a situation like this. But I think this one only cost us less than $20, if that. So it goes from the charge controller down to the batteries, and here's just another couple of deep cycle batteries, and I'm only using 2 in the shop here. Now then it goes from the batteries up into the inverter. So this inverter has been a good one. I've had this probably 15 years and never had a problem. And so this is what powers the whole shop. So like the drill press. You know, I got all the needed items to fabricate stuff. Grinder. Bandsaw. And it all works off this little tiny system. So I'm going to point out a couple of things here that it's all been fabricated off using this simple solar setup that we have here. So now like here's an engine. This was going to go on to the, you can see a gyro plane here. I have an ultralight plane here. So everything again was fabricated using this solar power setup. Everything except for welding. Now welding I do have to use a generator, but now welding that's covered in another segment. But everything else is, the fabrication of it is all done with these simple tools and this simple solar power setup. And for, again, we're comfortable out here. And we even have the satellite radio. We're out too far to get radio, so we have to have the satellite radio, but we do, and it all works off solar power and it makes us comfortable.
Thank you for watching this first segment in the series, HM Ranch, Comfortable Off-Grid Living.